I just felt like the league is in a pretty average position. The direction that the league is going in, I maybe don't agree with it completely. I thought I had a really good year last year, but they weren't going to pay me any more wages. If I had the answer to that, I'd probably be CEO of Football Australia. But
They're looking.
Yeah, he's the time Messi apparently. I think it shows how ignorant we are in Australia to the level of some of these players, because honestly I had no idea who he was.
What was your reaction when you saw that you draw the Bulls in the ACL Two?
There's some strong clubs in it, and I kind of thought Macarthur out of their pool was probably the best one to get. I think we could beat them. So if you make the final against the West, you're playing against Ronaldo. So Cong An Hanoi is like Hanoi Police, so we're owned by the police here. It's obviously a little bit different to how it is in Australia. Our president I think he's the head of the police, and he's very high up in the government as well. So we played a friendly game, and I played 30 minutes, and it was honestly the hottest game I've ever played in. I felt like I was in a sauna. My head was going to explode. So like a Dylan Leonard, for example, that's probably thinking, well, I can leave for free. Well, this is not a bad situation for me. But then you maybe have other young boys that are thinking, wow, like, will I get another contract?
The club okay with you leaving?
Oh, well, they weren't too thrilled or happy about it.
Steph, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate your time. I know it's been a bit of a chaotic day for you as well, so thanks for fitting us in. What has life in Vietnam been like? You've been over there about a month now. I know you had a very short time frame in terms of deciding what you wanted to do when you got the offer as well. Must have been a bit of a whirlwind.
Yeah, the first month's it's kind of flown by, to be honest. I think if I think back to the last day or last game that I played with Adelaide, that was about a month ago, like you said. But it's really flown by. I think the first week is always pretty difficult, because you're adjusting new teammates, new culture. You're kind of figuring out where to live. You're trying to figure out where to eat food, just all those small little basic things you take for granted, especially in an English speaking country. But also, Western countries are pretty simple. Doesn't matter if you're in Australia or somewhere in Europe. It's much the same. Where over here, things are very different. But I've loved my time so far. The first game, unfortunately, I wasn't able to actually be registered for the Super Cup, which we won. But it was pretty cool to see that, and the I guess, just the fans and the standard of the game, and won a trophy without doing a whole lot. But that was, it was great to see. And then the first game of the season was coming around, and I hurt my calf a few days before, and I don't think I'd had a soft tissue injury in maybe 4 years, so it was quite frustrating. But it was only about a week, and then played the East Asian Cup, the Shopee Cup game in Thailand, which lost 2-1, and it was a bit of a disaster of a game. We played really well, but they scored 2 with 10 men and won at the halfway shot on I can't remember the boy's name, but he's the time Messi apparently. I think it shows how ignorant we are in Australia to the level of some of these players, because honestly I had no idea who he was. But he's a legend over here in East Asia. And then since then we've won our last 2 games that I've played in, and just enjoying life here and settling in pretty well.
So you mentioned that the first game that you discovered you weren't going to be able to be registered in time to play, and then end up winning a trophy and got a winner's medal without even stepping foot on the field for the club yet. How much time exactly was there between when you were told that you weren't going to be able to play the game? Because you went on the away day and you travelled and you did everything, and then you end up with a medal a few hours later.
So probably, I guess, maybe it's the Vietnamese fashion is maybe some things aren't the most organised. I spoke to the coach a couple of days before, and he just said, listen, you've just got here. Like, we can only play or start 3 foreign players. That's the rules here. And, these other ones have been here, done the whole preseason, so I'm going to play them, which obviously is completely fair enough. I didn't really expect to be involved. He said, you're going to be on the bench. And for some reason in the Super Cup, you can have 3 foreigners on the bench as well, when normally in a league game, you can only have 1 foreigner on the bench. So he said, there's 6 of us. He said, I'll put you all on there. You'll maybe play 20, 30 minutes, depending on the game. But, your fitness levels are okay compared to the other two foreign boys that came in later as well. And then it was about 10 o'clock on game day in the morning when I got a message saying, this is the squad for the starting 11 and bench boys, and then the other boys, if you can meet in the gym at this time to do a session. So I was like, obviously a little bit confused. The team manager came and explained and just said, we weren't able to register you for this game because it needed to be in by a certain date, and you played the game in the Australia Cup, which kind of ruled you out. So even if they tried to get around it, it wasn't possible. So it was pretty frustrating because, I was literally getting ready for this game, and to then not play. But it is what it is. Looking back now, it doesn't actually make a difference. But at the time, obviously, you're frustrated because it's a final, you want to be involved. But we ended up winning, and like you said, got the medal anyway. So I don't have to tell people I wasn't involved, do I?
No, not at all. I'm sure a lot of people, especially Adelaide supporters, would have been quite surprised to learn about the move. Obviously, there's been a lot of controversy around the club as well, and you still are a contracted player. But for you, what was the reasoning that the offer attracted you, and why did you want to leave Adelaide and go somewhere new?
I guess there's always, like, as players, you're always ambitious. You're always kind of thinking, well, what's next? And I may go back to Adelaide at the end of this season if things don't work out well here, or if another team in Asia or Europe or whatever doesn't want to sign me. Of course, that's always a possibility. And I love playing for the club. Grew up supporting the club. I just felt like uh, the league is in a pretty average position. It's not overly exciting for someone like myself that's a little bit older, that's played in the league for quite a while. Not saying I'm the best player in the league at all, but I felt like that level of excitement maybe wasn't there, and that ambition. And obviously, if I could have a new challenge by going somewhere in Asia or even Europe, I was speaking to a couple of agents about things, and then you weigh it up, the finances versus the experience versus the quality of the league, and this was an opportunity that came up, and probably didn't expect to play in Vietnam, but because of the Champions League, the Shopee Cup, I was kind of excited by it. I thought, what, this can be a decent place to go. I spoke to Nicholas Olsen, who has played in Vietnam before, and he spoke pretty highly of the league. Obviously finances as well come into it. That's normal. And I think there's just that upside where, I was capped at Adelaide. I thought I had a really good year last year. But they weren't going to pay me any more wages. I was contracted, so they didn't have to, and they just wouldn't. It is what it is. I couldn't really earn more at the club, where if I come here or somewhere in Asia, similar to Europe, where if you play well, you get rewarded for that, and they'll give you a bigger contract, or there's bonuses, or there's you could move to another league probably easier than what you can in Australia, and that's really what it came down to. I've only got one career, and I want to have as many experiences as I possibly can. If I come back at the end of this season, like I did when I was there for the last couple stints, I always give 100%, and I hope I end my career back in Adelaide. But my ambitions are to stay over in Asia, or something comes up in Europe. For the next 3-4 years, I would love to stay abroad.
Given the nature of the deal, it's a loan as well. The club okay with you leaving? Because obviously, they have the right to play you.
Oh, well, they weren't too uh, thrilled or happy about it when I was kind of come to them with the deal, but um, I guess they also understood that, if a player wants to leave, they weren't going to pay me anymore. I have a relatively low buyout clause, and this loan fee covered more than half of the buyout clause. So the club, I think, just weighed it up and thought, well, okay, if the player doesn't 100% want to be here, we can use the money of his wages, probably one of the higher paid ones. We can get the loan fee, which is obviously good for the club, and it frees up a spot potentially to play a younger player, which is, the direction that the league is going in. I maybe don't agree with it completely. I understand it's great to play young players, and to sell them, and that's a great business model. It's something that probably the A-League should have been doing when it first started. But I think there also needs to be the balance of, having a successful team, and then playing young players when they deserve it, rather than just giving them the opportunity because there's 2 or 3 young ones going for the position, so one of them has to play.
Yep.
I think there's that fine line, and the teams that get that right will go on to have the most success in the A-League probably in the next couple of years on the field in terms of winning the league, but also, if you're a young player and you're part of a successful team, it's easier for that young player to actually play well, and just worry about themselves. And then, you can command a bigger transfer fee because you're coming from the best team in Australia versus one of the lower teams. That's my opinion. But in saying that, it comes down to money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Clubs know that they can pay young players minimum wage, very small amounts, and they only need one to kind of do well, to get a $500 to $1 million transfer, and that's great money. So that's where the league's at, I guess.
It's interesting. We've seen you obviously like pop up in a lot more media in the last few years and engage with kind of like the bigger picture of Australian football, probably a lot more than other current players do. Doing the podcast with Ben, I know you've done some radio and some TV news stuff as well. Being engaged with kind of the big picture discussion, do you think that's kind of, I wouldn't say open your eyes, obviously you're aware of everything that's going on, but the fact that you're constantly talking about it all the time, has that affected your kind of view on, I guess, Australian football in any way?
I don't think it's affected my view. I think I'm extremely passionate about the game in Australia. I think there's some players that play football and it's a job for them, and it is what it is. They play, they train, they get paid, and that's it. And that's completely fair enough. I think I'm someone that loves the game. I love watching it, but also I love everything to do with the game. I want it to be as successful as it possibly can be in Australia. I think this is something that, when I'm actually in Australia as well, I sometimes find it hard to not get annoyed or upset about certain things, which can actually then impact my mood or my performance on the field, because I'm annoyed about things that are happening where, in Japan or Vietnam, things that happen off the field, I couldn't care less if it's good or bad, because, I'm not here to improve their league. I'm here to play as best as what I can for the club that I'm at and to do well for myself. So team success, player success, that's all that's really on my mind here. But in Australia, it's different, and I enjoy those discussions. I think it's important that more players speak about it, because we do have a bit of currency. While you're a player, your voice can carry that weight, and while you're playing, more people will listen. We don't have enough media in the game, as obviously, you guys with what you're doing, like, there's just not enough people talking about the game. There's not enough interest in the game. So the more people that can talk about it, hopefully that then creates more discussions. And, if you're talking about people that actually love football, I think would be the highest in Australia out of all the codes. It's just, making those fans of all the different leagues around the world, or, the NPLs or the A-League, whatever it may be, national team, men's, women, like connecting them all. And we can still have disagreements. We can still have things that we don't think are right. And we can have things that, we're never going to agree on, but it doesn't mean that we need to be so disconnected. And that's something that, if I had the answer to that, I'd probably be CEO of Football Australia. But
they're looking.
Yeah, it's something that, I love talking about it. Obviously, being in the media is something that I'm kind of trying to see if it's something that I'd want to do post football. So it's good, I've been taught, by ex-players, while you're a player, try as many things as you can. So yeah, obviously I think I know what I'm talking about with football, for some extent. So it's a good place to start anyway.
While we're on the state of the game as well, we've seen this really lengthy process drawn out with Western United and all the drama that they've gone through. And the kind of story of how we got there has been talked about plenty. But from a player's perspective, one thing we've kept talking about is obviously the longer this goes, the players at the club on the men's and the women's teams and the staff and everyone and the fans as well, it's obviously every single day goes by, it restricts players' options to go find other clubs and, those kind of dominoes as we get closer to the end of the registration window. Can you give us a little bit of an insight into, what those players must be feeling like at the moment?
Yeah, it would be, I think you've probably got players in different boats where you maybe, all of them and the staff would be thinking, well, like, are we going to have a club to come back to? I know that they've been on a 5-day break, which was planned anyway because the preseason in Australia is so long. So it kind of came at a good time that they had this break. And I think, you've got probably young players, like a Dylan Leonard, for example, that's probably thinking, well, I can leave for free. Well, this is not a bad situation for me. But then you maybe have other young boys that are thinking, wow, like, will I get another contract? And
Mm.
same with, your middle-aged and older players. You've got the players like an Angus Thurgate, a Ben Garuccio, for example. Obviously, talking him up is my mate. But, like, I think those players there,
Yeah.
there's still a lot of stress because, you've got your whole life in Melbourne, like, your family, your kids, if you've got kids, you've got, maybe you're renting or you bought a house. So, you're essentially like, well, my life's here. And now all of a sudden I might have to pick up and leave to go to another team. Even if you can get one, it doesn't mean it's any easier because you planned everything around being signed for Western United for this season.
Hmm.
So I think that's a really challenging thing. And same with the staff at the club, the coaches, the admin, anybody that works. There's not enough professional jobs for football people in Australia. So to lose a club would be disastrous for everyone involved in the game. Um, and I'm sure there's a lot of anxiety floating around. Besides, honestly, I would say like an Angus Thurgate, a Dylan Leonard, those maybe younger players that still have a lot of currency potentially. They may be looking at this like that wouldn't be the worst thing because I can leave for free. Um, but it's still not a positive thing because there's no guarantees that a contract comes because, you're later in the window, you're going into a club late in pre-season now. It's, it's not good for anyone.
For sure. Talk to me a little bit about Cong An Hanoi. You've been there a little while now, as you say, undefeated start in the league, which is great. I'm really curious about what you've made of the ASEAN Club Championships as well, because this is a competition that's kind of been floated around. Obviously, Australia are part of that group in terms of football, but we don't send a club to this competition. I know you had a bit of a disappointing loss in the first round, but surely that could be a pretty cool opportunity in the future for Aussie clubs.
Yeah, I have no idea how the East Asian Games works because I know there's like an international tournament as well that I think Australia were part of back in the day, and it was made up of
Mm.
just A-League players. I think I was just breaking through into the A-League, and we were part of that. Now we're not part of that, so I don't know why we are not part of it. I'm not sure with the club aspect versus the international aspect how it works. Whether you can just kind of submit a proposal to come into it or an expression of interest. But again, I look at it like, well, this is the best clubs in East Asia. So you're not obviously against, the West in terms of the Middle East or Indians and stuff like that. And the Japanese and Koreans don't compete in this. But I think for the Australian League, this would be perfect because we have one team in this, potentially two. It gives, more games for players. So whether that's young players, whether that's older players, you're getting more games in the season, which that's one thing that we lack a lot in Australia is having competitive games. I think the prize money this year has increased. It's for the winner is about 400 to 450. I'm assuming it's US. So
Hmm.
it's not bad prize money. Whether that would cover your flights and accommodation, I'm not 100% sure on that one. So that's probably one of the things that would stop some clubs competing in it in Australia. But um, there's only positives. We play against, I think Tampine Rovers, from Singapore, where I think Trent Bahaja's there. We play against Selangor, where Zach Clough went. We played against, BG Pathum. We play against Burian. Like, these are some big teams.
Mm.
That, it's more games. And as a player, that's all you want to do is play games. Training's not as fun, is it?
No. What was your reaction when you saw that you draw the Bulls in the ACL2 back to Australia?
Yeah, it was funny. I was actually watching it live. I was doing a bit of recovery, and I thought, I'll get the YouTube link up and watch the draw. And I was kind of looking at it and thinking, well, who's the best draw for us to get in terms of obviously we want to go through. There's some strong clubs in it, and I kind of thought Macarthur out of their pool was probably the best one to get. It would be a very challenging game. But I felt like, what, I think we could beat them. Obviously Beijing, Guan, I think it is. Like they're going to be
Yep.
very, very strong. You just have to look at public league, what they're paying their players, and China's obviously more developed than Vietnam. So, and then I think it's Taipo, where
Yep.
there's is it Temakovsky? I think he's at James, the
Yes. Yep.
striker that was at Western Sydney and played for Metro Stars. So, yeah, it's funny. There's a few Aussies floating about in these competitions,
Mm.
but yeah, I think it will be probably out of us and Macarthur for who's going through. I would say I think Beijing will be really strong, but again, football's funny. You never know. If we play Beijing away first, and if you can get a result there, then becomes really difficult to go through once you drop points in games at home. They're going to have to come here where I assume it will still be, hot and humid, not probably as hot as what it is now. But the pitch, the grass is different. There's so many different factors that make these competitions more difficult than what it seems to be. Was one side that I'd love Macarthur to do well and go through, because it's good for the ranking points to hopefully get,
Yeah.
more teams into the Champions League. But from a selfish point of view now, I definitely want us to be the team that goes through.
Yeah, well, the other guys in the pod know it's dangerous to get me started on the coefficient. I can go on for ages, but it's exciting that you're going to get another trip back to Australia. Talk about the facilities. Obviously, we've known Australian teams struggle to travel in Asia. It doesn't really matter what competition it is, just the fact that you're going to new places, very different conditions as well. You talked about the heat, but is there one thing, I don't know, in the change rooms or in the training facilities or on the pitch that just the Aussie teams might show up and go, oh, that's a little bit different?
Probably not, to be honest. Like, I think our stadium's pretty good. It's got the running track around it. Like, it could be, they could probably spend a bit of money to paint it and make it look not as dated. But yeah, our pitch is actually quite good compared to some of the other teams' pitches that you'll play on in Vietnam, and the facilities. Our home change rooms have recently done them up, so they're pretty nice. I don't know what the away ones look like, but it's I think here they'll, the biggest challenge will be probably the weather, the humidity. But I think we play them later on when it will cool down. Like when I first got here, my first 2 weeks here, I think I'm relatively good with handling heat and working hard no matter what. But we played a friendly game and I played 30 minutes, and it was honestly the hottest game I've ever played in. I felt like I was in a sauna. My head was going to explode. So if you played around now, it would be much more difficult for the Australian teams to they're in the middle of pre-season, to come here, long flight, humidity, grass is a bit different. You could be 33 degrees and humid, and then all of a sudden it just starts bucketing down with rain. So to kind of get used to that, or be expecting that is, for a Vietnamese team, we know what's coming. But for the Aussie team, you'd be like, oh shit, like what's going on here? Which changes the way maybe you have to play. So it'll be a good game. I think. I think we'll be able to compete. Obviously we'll be going to win the game. I think we've started very well. But yeah, it's going to be difficult, that's for sure.
Who are some of the other guys in the team that we should be looking out for?
Our striker Alan, a Brazilian boy, he started pretty well. I think he scored. I think he scored in every game, to be honest. He scored a hat-trick on the weekend against Hanoi FC. Yeah, I think he scored maybe 6 goals. I reckon he's actually on fire now.
Yeah,
I think about it. 6 goals in the 4 games, or 5 games, the Super Cup, the Shopee Cup, and then the 3 league games. I think maybe he didn't. No, he did score in that one as well. Yeah, he's actually he's on fire. So he's
banging
the one to look out for. Leo, the number 10 Brazilian boy as well. I think that's, when you come here, you see a lot. There's so many Brazilian players in Asia. It's incredible, to be honest. And the key positions, I guess, you've got your striker, a number 10, maybe like for me, I'm playing as like a number 6, number 8, and then your centre back. Those are your players you normally sign the foreign boys in the Shopee Cup and the Asian Champions League. Obviously, it's unlimited in Champions League, and I think it's 6 or 7 in the Shopee Cup that you can have foreigners. So we can
Yeah.
play all our foreigners. Where in the league, it's, sometimes the reason why you're not playing is because for a certain game they want a foreign centre back instead of a foreign six, or they want,
Yeah.
it just makes it more difficult as a player. But yeah, we've got Quang Hai, who's I think maybe the most famous Vietnamese player. He's like a number 10 winger. I actually played against him in the junior national teams. In the Asian Cup, they played in China. They beat us, I think it was. So he's from that generation where they were really, really strong. And yeah, it's those are the players. I'm sure Macarthur will be doing their homework, watching the videos. That's the beauty of it. Everything's accessible, so we're not really going to be a
Yeah.
surprise with how we play. The same way, we can watch, and I've given some stuff to the coaches here on Macarthur as well to show how they play and information on players, and I'm sure I'll get even more the closer the game gets.
For sure. When you combine all three together, the league, the ACL Two, and the Shopee Cup as well, have you been given any expectations as a team? What are they hoping to achieve out of this season?
I think they want to win everything.
Yeah.
They're very, very ambitious. Our president, so Cong An Hanoi is like Hanoi Police, so we're owned by the police here. It's obviously a little bit different to
Right.
how it is in Australia, but yeah, essentially the police own us. So our president I think he's the head of the police, and he's very high up in the government as well. So
Right.
it's different in the sense of, here we've got bonuses, the president will come in and say for certain games, okay, this is what we're offering, which incentivizes players. It's only normal. And I think we want to win everything. That's what they want to do. They've got Mano Polking, who's a coach that's been around in Asia for a long time, Thailand and now in Vietnam. And they won the cup last year, which was big for them. Now we've won the Super Cup. I think they would love to win the league. It's been a while since that's happened. And the Shopee Cup last year, they lost in the final to Buriram on penalties. So, we expect to do really well in every competition. The Champions League is a new experience for us as a club. And, I think the expectation is to get out of a group. That's what we should be aiming for. And then once you get out, you just, you never know. But there's some strong clubs,
Mm-hmm.
Canberra, Osaka, Lion City Sailors, I think is still in ACL Two, Johor, who are in the Shopee Cup, they're in
Yep.
ACL Elite, so it's good that they won't be involved in it. And I can't remember what Korean team is, but then Al Nazar is in ACL Two. So if you make the final against the West, you're playing against Ronaldo, which is pretty
It's a pretty
crazy,
good
to be
carrot.
honest. I'm not well. I don't know if the final's home and away, but if it was home and away, I could not imagine him rocking up to our stadium. Um, but
I reckon it's hosted
it's
by the West this year, so he wouldn't have to.
yeah, because I think they hosted it last year as well against the Japanese team. Um, I think it was in Saudi
Well,
last year,
because
I reckon.
Sydney were in line to host it, but then Lion City got them in the semis. So Lion City hosted
Yeah,
the final. So I think it
true,
flips
true.
back.
Yeah, sorry. So I was talking about the ACL Elite. Yeah, I'm not sure with ACL Two. So, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, like one of these teams. Obviously, Gamba Osaka. It's a massive team. Even last year, San Francisco Hiroshima
Mm.
were the team to beat. But the crazy thing with playing
Yep.
Belgium or whatever, it's just funny how football works. Like you never probably see something like that happen again. Um, but anybody can beat anyone on any given day. And we're just excited to play games. I think after this international break, we play on Saturday week, and we play Saturday. Then it's a Wednesday, maybe a Champions League. Then it's a Saturday league. Then it's a Wednesday Shopee Cup. Then it's a Sunday league, and another champion. Like we've got so many midweek games. If you can get on a bit
Mm.
of a run, confidence is up. Obviously, it's great. Keeps keeping the players fit and fresh is the most important thing, though, because it is a lot of travel.
Brilliant, Steph. We appreciate your time. One more before I let you go. Can we expect the Football Friends podcast to come back anytime soon?
It's I would probably more keen to do it now than Ben. I've got a bit more time now that I'm over here. I'm not doing anything else. The radio stuff or the TV stuff or any other businesses that I was in person for. But the most difficult thing is that we found last year is just trying to tee up the time. If we could be in
Yeah.
person with each other in the same city, I think we could do an unbelievable job. I think we could actually improve it and keep getting more guests on and getting them in person. You could interact more, but it's just
Mm.
as you would know, costs, well, we don't really know how to edit it ourselves, so it costs money. So we're bringing in sponsorship to cover those costs. So it takes time to bring in the sponsors, and you've obviously got to liaise with who you're getting on as a guest. You've got to liaise with each other on, when you're coming back from an away game. Can we do it at this time? Does it work out? So I hope we can somehow get it going. Because I enjoyed it. I think it also opened a few doors. But if Ben doesn't want to do it, maybe I need to find someone else, jump ship, and find someone
Maybe.
else to do a podcast with.
Very good. All right, Stefan Mauk, we really appreciate your time. Glad you're having a good time over in Vietnam, and we'll see you back in Australia very soon.
No worries. Cheers, Lachie. Thank you.